Hi, this is Lara from Forex Info USA with your free daily US dollar index Elliott wave analysis for Tuesday's New York trading session dated the 30th of March. I'm doing this video now 6 hours after New York has closed. It's been a difficult day's analysis with a lot of difficult wave counts. Starting this analysis of the dollar, as always, let's go back to an historical chart, this one back to 1985, and as I've said before, previous prices prior to 85 were higher, and we can see what certainly has a 5-wave impulsive look down. So I'm happy, very happy with these cycle degree waves labelled as here. A 3-wave move for cycle degree A from 1992 to 2001, followed by a 3-wave move nicely contained in trend lines for B, a breakout of the trend line indicating the next wave is underway, and cycle degree wave C should be a clean 5 waves up that should take the dollar comfortably above the high of A, which was about 122. Because this is an expanded flat correction where B reaches below the start of A, we can reasonably expect a C wave that will be a long, strong C wave and move beyond the end of A. This channeling technique here, Elliott's channeling technique, worked really well for these cycle degree waves. Bit of a throw over for the early part of wave A, this 5-wave structure down here in the second wave position. Reasonably common to see that actually. Also portending a throw over at the end of the 3rd wave at intermediate degree as well. So I'm going to take you now to a regular daily chart. Before I go there, my long-term target for the end to this 3rd wave at primary degree, of which we're just in the early stages down here, and this will be by about the end of the year or so, 104.58. That's where wave 3 will be 1.618, the length of 1, which is really common relationship between them. It's not necessary for the dollar to get up that high for the end of wave 3, it's just necessary for it to end beyond the end of wave 1. So taking you now to a daily chart, and again I have those 2 wave counts. Here's the main wave count. This wave count says we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, and minor 5th of our first intermediate wave 1 up has finished already, and we're on our way down. This wave count's going to be really strongly confirmed when we have movement below the lower edge of this parallel trend channel. These green lines are a trend channel drawn using Elliott's channeling technique. This works really, really well with minor degree waves, and it works really well on a daily chart. I've drawn it in this instance with a trend line from the high of 1 to the high of 3, placed a parallel copy on the end of wave 2. Because we've got a throw over in the 4th wave position, that could indicate an upcoming throw over in the 5th wave position also on the other side of the channel. It's not necessary, it's just a guideline. Wave 5 blue may have ended here, remarkably short with a 0.618 relationship to wave 3, which is alright. Thereafter we should, according to this wave count, be in an intermediate wave 2 down that will have an A, B, C of some description, and cannot reach below this point. Here's our invalidation point, 74.18. At this stage, looking at the wave count, I'm going to say this is an invalidation point as well. If we have a new high for the dollar above 82.22, this wave count with the structure so far will look extremely unlikely, and I'll go with the alternate. Our target on the downside for wave 2 black, about 79.51. About the end of wave 4 of 1 lesser degree, a really likely ending point for it, to about 79.15, which is the 0.382 Fibonacci ratio. So quite a nice little target there. Having a look at this scenario on an hourly chart, it sees this 5th wave blue broken down as a 1, 2, 3, 4 with a short little 5th wave. And so far, we may have a 1 working on a 2nd wave up, and so on, 5 waves down to end A blue. So far, it looks like wave A is probably going to break down into 5 waves, although it's probably a little bit too early to tell. It may end in a nice 3-wave structure. If that happens, we've got a flat correction, and the possibility of B ending beyond the start of A is reasonable, and this wave count may then remain intact. So I'd be much happier if we saw a 5-wave structure down. Having a look at my alternate scenario, and I favour this slightly more than the alternate I presented yesterday. It sees the dollar still rising and wave 5 blue and 1 black not yet over, with a long extended first wave within this fifth wave. The dollar may be setting itself up for a shorter third and fifth to reach up to those original targets I had given, about 84.22 for the end to 5 blue, if this interpretation is correct. This interpretation is invalidated with any movement below this point here, 79.51, although we would have movement below the lower edge of this trend channel prior to that point, indicating to us that this would be the preferred wave count and not the other one. So we may be just a few days away from having clarification either way. I'm going to use this trend channel rather than the invalidation point to tell us which of these wave counts is correct. Having a look at this one on the hourly chart, these movements are really nicely contained in trend channels, mostly contained in trend channels, using Elliott's channeling technique, which is really nice to see at this hourly level. It doesn't always work this well. I've drawn this one from a high of 1 to the high of 3, creating a parallel copy. I've placed it on the low of 2. We've got an overthrow on the lower side of the channel for the beginning of the third wave, but I like this count here because it sees the steepest part as the middle of this third wave, which is exactly what you should see in the middle of a third wave in an impulsive structure. A nice three-wave movement for B, a short little 5, does break down into a 5, however, that's all right. Thereafter, I'm going to put A and B and C here because the ratios are reasonably good between A and C here. There's just 0.02 difference in a 0.618 Fibonacci relationship, with C being 1.618 the length of A. Really close, good Fibonacci relationship between them there. We could reasonably have expected C to end here, being equal to A. It's also reasonable for it to extend a little further. And this is really nicely contained again in a trend channel drawn using Elliott's channeling technique. The beginning of A to the end of B, a parallel copy placed on the end of A, and we have a breakout of this trend channel indicating to me that this wave 2 pink is over, and according to this wave count, we're in the early stages of a third wave up. Wave behaviour is really important. If this alternate scenario is the correct wave count, I would expect to see some very strong upwards movement, not too much sideways mucking around from the dollar, and I want to see a new high above 82.22 to confirm this alternate wave count and deny the main one. If we have that strong upwards movement that I'm expecting to see according to this wave count, and I'll be really happy to invalidate the main one and just go with this one. However, going back to MACD and looking at it on a daily chart, if this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and wave 5 at minor degree ended here, according to the main wave count, we do have a reasonably good divergence on MACD. This is pretty much the only reason why I'm sticking with the main wave count as a slightly preferred option over the alternate. Both of them are entirely valid, but I like the divergence I see here on MACD, giving me some indication that this is an expiring trend and we may be in for some downside for a little while. Either way, we should have clarification hopefully within a week. By the end of next week, I would certainly expect to have the situation clarified. Like I said yesterday, I don't like presenting two wave counts with one bullish and one bearish. It's not helpful to anyone's trading. Unfortunately, at the moment, the situation with the dollar and some other currency pairs as well is not as clear as it has been in past weeks. A big thanks to some of the really helpful people over at Kenny's Technical Analysis blog. There's a link at the bottom of my index article on my site for today's index analysis if you should like to visit. There's a bunch of very knowledgeable Elliott wave traders over there, mostly looking at the stock market, but also looking at the index and occasionally other forex currency pairs. I hope this lasts only about a week or so. I'd like to have some clarity. That's all for me with the dollar index analysis. I'll be doing this again tomorrow. Hope you find this useful in your trading, and may all your trades be profitable.